3 signs you're on the journey of becoming your highest self. Number 1, it gets lonely. And it gets lonely because you'll start to see that not everyone sees the world as you're starting to see it from your awakened eyes. The thing is, you get lonely for a reason, because it leads you to step number 2, and that's to disconnect. Part of the process of returning to your heart is you slowly starting to disconnect from all of the energy that you give what's outside of you. Because the energy you're giving to what's outside of you is the thing that's keeping you from returning inside of you. And last but not least, number 3, what no longer serves you will find a way to leave you. And sometimes that's the most painful part of all, because one of the scariest parts of awakening is realizing that everything you've created on the outside of your world, whether it's your relationships, your career, or even your health, all of it has always been a reflection of what's been going on the inside of your world. The more time and energy you focus on upgrading what's inside, the less time and energy you'll need to put into creating what you want on the outside.
This is what the highest self is. It's the part of you, the place within you that is not worshiping God. That's what religion has brought to us and taught us, that God is outside of us. It's the part and the place within you that knows that at your highest level, you are God. Each and every one of us. And when you are connected to the highest place within yourself, when you are connected to the God that you are, you have all the powers of the creative source of the universe.
So 9 then means consciousness, and it shows either on the lower level, which is the devil or hell of the carnal mind, on the higher level, which is the divine mind. There's an interesting way you can see how the Bible specifically shoves this in, so you know it's a tip-off from the ancient people that this is talking about consciousness. Jesus comes down and he's talking to the fellas in the boat. I'm exactly sure, I don't know if it's in John or where, but Jesus says to the fellas in the boat, look, if you want to catch fish, cast your net over to the right side of the boat, okay? He says, if you want to catch fish, cast your net over to the right side of the boat. What Jesus is talking about is not fish. Fish means wisdom. He's not talking about the right side of the boat. He's talking about directing your energy to the right hemisphere of the mind. You do that by turning off the left side in meditation. Now, how do we know? Now that we know that the number 9 means consciousness, how do we know that Jesus is talking about consciousness and not fish? You'll see there in that scripture when Jesus says, cast your net to the right side, you'll see how many fish they caught. They caught 153 fish. Okay? 1 plus 5 plus 3 equals 9. 9 means consciousness. Therefore, Jesus is definitely saying, if you want to be filled with God's wisdom, if you want to be filled with God's understanding, if you want to be filled with God's knowledge of this universe and your place in it, then direct your energies to the right hemisphere. And Jesus told you how to do that by taking no thought. You must meditate. You must allow your eye to be single. You focus that energy right between your eyes and your forehead, and you focus energy there, and you bring yourself above all of those thoughts which are trying to destroy you. You bring yourself up into the bliss of the heaven which is within you, and then you fill with wisdom, you fill with understanding, and you start to activate the right hemisphere of your brain which has been dormant all of your life.
Let's have a conversation about the higher self. The higher self is you simultaneously existing in another timeline. Remember those old cartoons or old commercials where they had the good you and the bad you on each shoulder? Truth be told, we deal with this every single day. The battle of the ego versus the higher aspects that are existing simultaneously in another timeline. The more you become like each aspects, the more you either stay in your timelines or rise to other timelines of higher forms. If you want to get to the higher timelines, you must become more like the aspects that exist in those timelines. Let's say if you want to go to timelines where you have abilities, well, you have to be more like those aspects and get to know those aspects with those abilities. Do those aspects use their logic mind predominantly? Your logic mind is the analytical aspect that wants to understand everything and try to make sense of everything. So if you learned a certain amount of things in this reality and you learn higher forms of thought, which exist in other realities, you must put your logic mind aside, bring your right brain in, because that's how your other aspects operate. Your higher aspects operate off of feelings, understanding that's communication as well. Your feelings are used as guidance systems in those realities. Your feelings in those realities are like your spidey senses that you haven't learned how to use yet. If you want to hone those realities, hone those feelings.
So I just came to a revelation about the higher self that just blew my mind, and I want to share that with y'all. So you know we have a higher self and a lower self. Our higher self is our spirit, our lower self is our soul. So our higher self is just a fragment of God consciousness, and God wanted to experience itself across multiple dimensions, so it basically projected a fragment of its consciousness into a multidimensional being. And now that multidimensional being, or our spirit, is projecting fragments of itself into multiple dimensions. So you'll hear people on this app talking about timeline jumping or quantum jumping. This is what they're talking about. The higher self projects us, a version of us, into separate dimensions. And because the higher self was created in God's image, it does not experience separation. So to the higher self, it is God. Because the ego is what creates separation, and it does not have an ego. It only experiences the love frequency, and it exists outside of time and space. So this is the very reason why we're called multidimensional beings, because we are a fragment of that multidimensional being. And this is also why they say the higher self is all-knowing. Now I'm about to explain that in more detail. So like I said, our soul is just a fragment of the higher self being projected into this dimension, because the higher self cannot exist at a lower density. But it's how the higher self experiences our existence that blew my fucking mind. Because you know how they say we live in a holographic dream matrix, right? So our soul is our actual dream body. Because the higher self exists outside of time, our entire lifetime, although it seems like it's 80 something years, to the higher self, it happens in a second. So the higher self is all knowing because our entire life has already happened, right? So it's as if the higher self went to sleep and woke up and we were the dream, because our soul is the higher self's dream body. So when we're dreaming, we're basically projecting a fragment of our consciousness into an alternate reality.
So you want to hear the voice of your higher self? Come here. You're not going to want to miss this one. I want you to keep your gaze right here, but still your entire body. Stay with me. Breathe into the space in your entire body here, and just become completely present of the space that you occupy. And remember that in this moment, with every movement, every subtle shift, you are not only shifting into a different reality, but also a timeline, a different possibility out of infinite. So be mindful of this. Now, I want you to close your eyes. We're about to tune into the frequency of your higher self. I want you to remember a moment where you made a big mistake. This could have been recently, a few years ago, when you were a kid. Go to a moment in time where you made a big mistake. Right before you made that mistake, there was a voice in your mind. There was a feeling, there was a thought that I shouldn't do this. That feeling and thought was you wishing you didn't do that. In the future, the ripple sending through timelines, wishing you didn't do that. And right now, your higher self is communicating with you. The frequency of the higher you is intrinsically inside of you. You must tune into it. You must meditate on it. Breathe into it. Make decisions off of what you wish you did, what you wish you didn't do. Don't just move and do what's best for you now. Do what's best for the higher you.
What is the higher self? Imagine it as the wisest, most peaceful part of you. A version of yourself that has seen it all. It's like having a friend who has been around for lifetimes, gathering experiences and knowledge along the way. This higher self isn't just about who you are right now. It carries the wisdom of all your past experiences, even those you might not remember. It's the part of you that knows why certain things feel familiar, or why you're drawn to specific people or places. It's as if your soul has lived many lives, learning and growing each time, and your higher self is the one keeping track of all that knowledge. So, when you get that gut feeling or sense of déjà vu, that's your higher self gently nudging you, reminding you of the bigger picture. It's there to help you navigate your current life with the wisdom of all those past experiences. This isn't something you have to work hard to find, it's already within you, always guiding you towards what's best for your growth. Next time you're faced with a tough decision or feel lost, take a moment to connect with that deeper part of yourself. Trust that inner guidance, knowing it comes from a place of profound understanding, one that spans beyond just this lifetime.
If this has happened to you, then you will understand everything I'm about to say. At one point in your life, a process of spiritual awakening occurred. Either it was triggered by an extreme event, a crisis, a chronic illness, or simply the natural process of soul maturing. In the first beginning of one's awakening, we begin to search for more depth in life. Often, we ask the big questions, such as, what is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? And what happens after you die? An awakening is often triggered by the sensation that something profound is missing in our lives. And a good majority of the public, sadly, are like those in the Matrix, who continue to take the blue pill and remain in comfortable ignorance because taking the red pill would mean that everything they ever knew was false. Facing that pain would be too scary and too uncomfortable for them, so they continue in their comfortable lie. But you on the other hand, hit that moment in your life where you suddenly realized you didn't have to do the same thing over and over again. You realized you have a choice to do something differently. Tom Clancy once said, there are two kinds of people: the ones who need to be told, and the ones who figure it out all by themselves. So when you begin your awakening, there is a process that begins. You learn things, good and bad. Your mind is now aware of itself, and you begin to choose to think about things you told yourself long ago that you shouldn't think about or entertain. But now that you let those walls of fear down, you begin to see things for what they really are. Most of you can remember when this happened to you. You become highly sensitive to the suffering of others. You felt kind of cut off from the world, almost cut off from the divine. And the more aware you became of your disconnection, the more it hurt you. You felt this ache deep down inside that didn't ever seem to stop. But see, this moment was profoundly intertwined with the process of spiritual awakening. Because before seeing the light, we first have to walk through the valley of the shadow of death in order to prepare our hearts and our minds for what we are about to receive. Think upon it in this way. In order to put on new clothes, you must take off the old ones. The old must be stripped away in order to make way for the new. The suffering you went through is for a purpose, and that is the destruction of the old outdated beliefs and identities and habits that you thought were you, but were actually a programmed version. You start to perceive reality in a totally different way. In this stage, you start seeing through the lies, the delusions propagated upon society. You feel unhappy with how things were, how things are. Disturbed by the suffering you see, you no longer see life how you did in your previous state of complacent unawareness. You start seeking. You begin a deep search for truth in everything you do. You're not afraid anymore. You're not afraid of the answers because you crave the truth. You crave the light. And you start to realize you're not alone in this quest. That there are hundreds and thousands, millions of us, all becoming awake to truth, pretty much at the same time.